All right, welcome back to another crazy feral experience of live TikTok. This is the third TikTok live stream, and as we wait for people to join, I tried to pick something pretty controversial there up at the top, which I'm told if you put the Trinity is true, you're going to get some heat. So welcome everybody. I think last time we had another 300 people live in here. So I think one of the best arguments for the Trinity to kick it off that I've really been pushing lately is the Old Testament. And I think that this is such a revolutionary idea and approach to most people, because people think, oh, the Trinity is this New Testament doctrine. The Trinity is this idea that, Jesus invented, or that Paul invented, or that is, new to the New Testament. And it's really not. So it's not something that, Paul invented. It's not something that the Council of Nicaea invented. If you watch my first 15-minute debate opening statement with Daniel Hakikachu, the Muslim, you'll notice that I spent the first 15 minutes talking about how the Trinity is an Old Testament doctrine, and there are quite a few modern Jewish scholars who are now admitting this. And so if you look at the actual Hebrew revelation in the Torah, in the writings, and in the prophets, you start to notice this pattern of Yahweh, the angel of the Lord, his messenger, and his spirit. And that's present all throughout Genesis. We see it. I just reread Genesis recently before the Hakikachu debate. We see it multiple times throughout Genesis. When we get up into the book of Judges, for example, we see multiple instances of Yahweh, the angel of the Lord, and his spirit. And the angel of the Lord, for example, in the story of Gideon, it says that when the angel of the Lord appears, it says Yahweh turned his face to Gideon. So we know that it's not, in this case, merely a created angelic messenger. There are created angelic beings, but the word angel is a generic term. It could refer to a divine messenger. It could refer to a purely human created messenger. It could refer to demons, right? Angels, demons. It's the same terminology can be used for different classes or types of beings. And it can also refer to the angel or the messenger of the covenant that we read about in the minor prophets, who's identified as the Son of God, the second person of the Godhead. And so when we read the book of John, we see that in the beginning was the Logos was with God, the Logos was God. And then we read a few verses down that he was always in the bosom of the Father, right? That's the eternal generation of the Son. So I think this is open to where people can request to come on. So the word being is a generic term that can pick out different levels of metaphysics. So if we mean by existence, then there's one God that exists, but that one God exists in the mode of three persons. So the Trinity is both one and three, and there's nothing about God being both one and three that's somehow contradictory. In fact, even objects in the created world exemplify both unitive and multiple traits, characteristics. So something being one and three, there's, again, pretty much everything is that way. Or, is at least one and many in some way. We've just done, there are not three spirits. I don't understand why. John 4:24 is talking about, it's saying that God is, in his essence, not physical, so he's spirit. We just covered the logical problem of the Trinity in the first stream that we did. So you go to my YouTube channel, my backup channel, and there's a 3-hour discussion on that. So does anybody want to come on? We get a lot of comments, but not many requests. I thought if I put the Trinity is true, I would get like infinite Muslims hopping in here to destroy me. So I think when it says in John 4 that God is spirit, right? The word spirit can be a general term for something non-physical, or it can be a reference to a specific person, the Holy Spirit. So it can be referred to either one. So God is spiritual as a being, but he also is Holy Spirit. So the third person of the Godhead is also identified in John 4, so it's both. Yeah, Paul Williams actually admitted that he lost that debate, which is funny. So I don't know that he's admitted he's lost many debates, but he did admit that he lost the debate. I mean, he conceded like an hour after the debate on Twitter. So does anybody want to hop on? It should be open to where people can request to come on. Do I have to invite people? I don't remember how. I've only done this twice. I don't remember exactly how we do all this. Right. So no, I think that the Trinity is a Hebrew doctrine. That's what I was just talking about in the first few minutes. And if you look at my opening statement in the Daniel Hakikachu debate, that's what I go into. So the fact that Greek terms and Greek philosophy is used to explain the distinctions in the Godhead doesn't mean that the Trinity is a Greek doctrine. Plato's Trinity is not the same thing as the Hebrew Trinity. So welcome everybody. Yeah, so I mean, I'm happy to discuss those topics if anybody wants to.
Yo, what's up, Jay?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. I just seen you. I didn't know if you sent the invite on purpose, if you meant to or not.
I mean, it just pops up, so
Yeah,
you don't have to join if you don't want to.
No, yeah, I'll be in here. I'll try to help get some people in here.
Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, so I think a lot of times when people think that the Trinity is what it's not. You know, they think it's this philosophical doctrine, but I mean, it's just so rooted in the Old Testament that okay, you want to debunk orthodoxy? Come on down. Divinely inspired. Why don't you hop on here? Do they have to request to speak? I don't remember how this works.
They do request, like how request, but once you accept them, they can speak. So
they have to request, or me?
yeah, I mean, you can. So certain people you'll be able to invite if you go on the guest request list, and you can like scroll down and see which people you can invite.
Okay, divine inspired. You can come on here if you want. Yeah, if you watch the discussions that I've done with Dr. Bo Branson, monotheism is actually a very late medieval term. It's not a term that's even used in the ancient world. So, viewers, oh, here we go. Invite. Let's see. Where's divine inspired? Here you go. Come on down. We're gonna debunk orthodoxy, yeah. Show me how it's done. Pagan polytheist. Okay. Please, first century Christian, come explain how I'm a pagan polytheist.
Bruh, he's an insane heretic. All like the top.
Anybody that has a cartoon profile of themselves, like you can automatically assume that they're a freaking lunatic. Disciple. Uh-oh, what's up, disciple? You're gonna set us straight.
Hey, I was sorry. I was wondering about the Old Testament.
Can you whisper your argument a little more? Can you put a little more whisper on it? Because I can almost hear you.
Yeah, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so in like Deuteronomy, I've seen some verses regarding if a man comes to a woman and he, boom boom, like and she's not consensual, um, he should pay her father 50 shekels. What do you think of that?
I think that there was laws that were instituted for warfare and for slaves in the ancient world, which were revolutionary for that time. But a lot of those laws are also typological. So it's kind of like if you think about God, a father's relationship to a son, right? Like a father doesn't expect everything that for a 8-year-old that he might expect for a 17-year-old, right? And so the church fathers often make the point that in the book of Genesis and in Exodus and in the ancient world, you're dealing with humanity that was in a very immature state. And so God spoke to them where they were at. And so he didn't have high expectations for people existing in a very sort of pagan, brutal world. So not every requirement was required for them that's required for us because, thank you, to whom much is given, much is required. So I think a lot of those laws were temperate laws for the time. And they also have, for us nowadays, a typological significance. So a lot of the laws about warfare, cleansing the promised land and so forth, those are symbolic for what happens in a spiritual sense in the New Testament period. So hopefully that makes more sense of that. Let's see. Uncle Ruckus. I like how Nick already knows all the loons, so he can identify who the lunatics are.
Yo, so I have a question.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. How do you respond to Catholics that say people like Saint John of Damascus and the Cappadocians are held to filioque?
Well, we have to be clear what the filioque is, and the filioque is defined at the Council of Lyons and the Council of Florence by the Roman Catholics as a double eternal hypostatic procession. And so if you go back and read the letter of St. Maximus to Marinus, he says that when he asked the Latins in his day what they meant, they explained it as just the Son sending the Holy Spirit into time and space. So it was not meaning what's defined at Lyons and Florence. So if you read John of Damascus, he's very clear that the Father is the sole cause. There's no place where he gives the Son any role of iatia or cause. And if you look at the Vatican clarification on the filioque, it actually admits that. So those are misuses by Roman Catholics.
So you would say we have filioque in a different sense, but
You
not
cut out, bro.
okay. And then one more thing.
You cut
So-
out. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say because now this is obviously not an attack on you, but like people have said like your view of essence energy distinction is problematic. So I just wanted to ask you yourself like what you mean by your like I guess view of essence energy distinction.
I mean, says who? Like what? Everybody could find somebody that thinks somebody's view is problematic. So I don't even understand what that. Like, how is that relevant?
So no, it's because so some people have said that you hold to like you say there's a major real distinction between the essence and the energies. When you say
that's a post-Thomistic terminological development that's not used in the time of the Cappadocians or in the medieval Byzantine synods. So it's not really appropriate to take something that's that's not even in Aquinas, right? Aquinas doesn't use major real. That's a post Middle Ages scholastic distinction that gets up into the time of like Suarez and Bellarmine. So why would we think it's appropriate to apply that terminology? What we ought to do is go look at the way that people like the Cappadocians and Gregory Palamas describe the distinction, and they simply describe the distinction between the essence and the energy as equal to the distinction between the hypostases. So if people later on want to describe the distinction between the persons as a, quote, major real distinction or a minor real distinction, whatever terms you want to use, none of that even matters because the debate actually ends up being about what we participate in. So as a Roman Catholic, you tell me whether we participate in a created reality or whether we participate in an uncreated reality.
okay. So would you say that at least because I know like the
So
SCOTUS
you're not going to answer what I just asked you?
Huh?
You're not going to answer what I asked you. You're just going to move on.
Oh no, I didn't. Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you asked me. I apologize. But I'm not Catholic, by the way. That's
What are you?
I'm Eastern Orthodox.
Why is that funny?
No, it's because I said it in the comments. I'm West Syriac Catholic, so I could get out because I went to. Because I have class in like 25 minutes. My bad.
I don't get what's funny about all that.
Never mind. I'm sorry. So I would ask when you say if
you're not a Roman Catholic, why are you trying to pin me down on late scholastic terminological distinctions?
No, I'm not Catholic. I just want to ask like on behalf of other people on the like, because a lot of people in the chat like were telling me prior to this that you should go ask, if you go on the panel, ask him this or that. So that's why. That's why.
I don't know why it's so funny. What grade are you in? Fourth grade?
I'm a sophomore.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye. Yeah. Grow up, dude. Just giggling and shit like third graders. I gave you like a serious, lengthy answer to your question. Your reply is to giggle. If you're not going to go read the material, if you're not going to reply to the actual answers that I gave you about what we participate in, joyless. I get a lot of trolls, so I'm sorry that I'm not joyless, that I'm not full of joy to all the people that troll the stuff that we do all the time. So anyway, it's open forum. If people who are anti-Trinitarian, you want to come on, that's why it says the Trinity is true. So if you can, I know it's very difficult for people over here on TikTok to understand making an argument and not giggling and acting like a 4-year-old, because I know that's pretty much what happens over here. It's the most feral. Yeah, I already said you can come on here, dude. Let's see. Let me find you here. Let's see. I'm trying to find you, and I'll bring you on. These rabid anti-Trinitarians. You don't pop up in the thing, so I don't see you on here. Are you Yagata? Let's see. Rebecca, she always wants to haggle. Let me go back to Tabakudinho. I don't see you on the list, dude. How am I supposed to bring you on? Hey, Nick, if it doesn't pop up, does that mean that you can't invite them? I don't know, why does some people pop up and some don't?
Yeah, so for instance, that Tabacu, whatever, they don't have enough followers to come up. So if they don't pop up on the invite list, it means they don't have enough followers to come up, or they're banned.
Huh.
So that Tabacu person, they can't come up regardless.
Oh, even if I send them an invite, can I?
Yeah, you won't be able to send them an invite, unless they're in a different country. But for the US, I think it's 300 or 600 followers you have to have, and they only have 130.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Didn't know that. All right, so Light, what's up, Light?
What's up, Jay?
What's on your mind?
Nothing much, really. Just I'm with Nick because I'm a fan, just as he is.
All right, cool. G1. G1.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you some questions because I'm a Catholic, right, in a sense, because I take in the philosophy. I want to learn more pertaining to the Eastern philosophy. Is that fine?
What do you want to talk about?
How would you respond to the LPT, for example?
Yeah, we just did a 3-hour live stream on this. That's on my backup channel on YouTube.
Your backup channel on YouTube? Oh, okay. And then my other question would actually be in relation to Ruckus's question, because What's your okay? How do you articulate like an essence, energy, and distinction? Because I understand like Palamite, in a sense, people would argue that he kind of like entail like a conceptual distinction between the essence and the energies.
Yeah, do
But
you
there's
think the
some
distinction
people
between the persons is conceptual?
that the persons with the persons like each other or the essence.
Either one.
I believe like the persons to each other, real, persons to essence, conceptual.
So Basil says that the distinction between essence and energy is just as real as the distinction between the persons.
Is it? Do you have like any like citations I can just drop in the comments? I can go read it.
I've probably got 50 live streams on this in the last 4 years. So you want me to drop you citations right now? Letter 234 by Basil, dialogue between Orthodox and a Barlamite.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay,
All right, so thought we'd have more of a Trinitarian dispute, but I'm trying to invite the guy that said he was going to decimate the Trinity, but it seems like it just wants to be Roman Catholics talking. So, I mean, yeah, for those that have those kinds of questions, I mean, literally probably done 50 live streams outlining the essence energy distinction. So, not really wanting to like launch into that whole discussion again. The topic is Trinity. If I have to answer those questions, I guess I will. I thought we would get like, the crazy Protestants and the Muslims, but I guess you just never know what you're going to get.
You
So
will eventually. Sometimes it takes a minute for it to start up.
that's cool. A-Town.
What's up, bro?
Hey.
So you saying the Trinity is real, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I would like to go to 1 Corinthians 11, and I started verse 3. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ. The head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. So Christ can't be God if he got a God.
Well, God the Father is the God of the Son.
But
So,
what the point is that they're not the same.
correct, because they're distinct. But that doesn't
Okay.
mean the Son isn't God.
So you saying we saying the same thing, correct? Like you saying the Trinity is not true, right?
No, I believe that the second person of the Godhead has as his God, God the Father, but that God the Father conveys to the Son all the same powers and nature that he has. And that's why if you read the Gospel of John, that's what Jesus says. He says that all that the Father has, he has given to the Son.
Okay, so well we got
Both of
another
them.
point. See, I can't go to my Bible out because my phone will kind of mute me. But I'm pretty sure you know the scripture where it said, neither the Son know the hour or the time, right?
Yeah, but it also says there's none good but God, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's making distinction
Yeah,
all through the Bible that they are separate entities. Like he sent the same, like his sons, his dad has sent him on a mission, and he on that mission, but they are two different people.
Yeah, but it's a linguistic turn of phrase, right? It's when you say like it's a rhetorical statement to say no one knows, right? No one's good. Because in other phrases and other statements, it says that the Son does know all things. So if the Son knows all things, and if the Son knows what's in every man's heart, as John 1 says, when he's talking to Nathaniel, it can't also be the case that he doesn't know stuff. So the way that we reconcile all the verses is that we have to have a holistic interpretation. They all have to make sense. So we can't pick certain verses, right?
Okay, so does this make sense? Jesus was given the revelations. He was given revelations, like revealing of things, but he wasn't all knowing.
But it says that he knew all things. So
But
he is all knowing.
nah,
That's
I
what
mean,
I'm saying. The
we
statement
making a
that the Son doesn't know the last day it's rhetoric. It's a rhetorical phrase. It's just like when you say there's none good but God. It doesn't mean that literally nobody else is good. It's just a way of expressing the supreme goodness of God. So likewise, Jesus, if he says no one knows the day or the hour, not even the Son of Man, he's not literally saying the Son of Man doesn't know the day or the hour, because other verses you see say that the Son knows all things. See how that?
I mean, I can see how you can say that, but then that would come in with context. But
Right.
I got a greater question then. Okay, so the whole book, right? It was written about these families, right? These tribes that God loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would they be today? And if you knew who they were today, what would you do?
Well, I think that when the northern kingdom split from Judah, those are the lost tribes. So I don't think anybody knows for sure who those people are. But I think that today's Jews do, in a loose sense, derive from the Jews of the first century. I still think it's the same Jews. And the reason I think that is because Romans 11 and other verses talk about the future conversion of the Jews. So how could there be a future conversion of the Jews if the Jews don't, in some sense, still exist?
Okay. So you say the Jewish people today in Israel, they are the Jews today, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So now you know the Bible says that when I would take my people back to their land, there would be no more war. Right?
You talking about in Isaiah when it talks about beating the swords and the plowshares?
Now it said when I bring my people to their land, there will be no more war. There will be peace.
Well, I'm saying there's some messianic prophecies that say that, and I think those are talking about the time of the Messiah. So when Christ comes, he brings peace to the church. So it's not talking about everywhere in the world having peace. It's talking about the kingdom that he sets up will be a kingdom of peace.
So how could we prove who was who?
Who's who? What do you mean?
Like for example, if I was to say, oh, the Jewish people are the people of God today, I can go to the Bible and show you, right?
I don't think that the Jews of today are saved. I think that they are descendants of Abraham, but they're not God's people without Christ. You have to be in Christ to be God's people.
Hold on. So it's no more, like, just say if Christ didn't come, it was no more children of Israel.
I don't follow you.
Okay, so let's just say this. Let's get to the point. Okay, can you jump over to Deuteronomy 1 verse 1?
Yeah.
So who did God give the commandments to?
The Israelites at Mount Sinai?
Okay, so it wasn't no other, like it wasn't no other people. He didn't give it to nobody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, which to prove it, Deuteronomy 1 verse 1, it say, these are the words that Moses spoke unto all Israel beyond Jordan in the wilderness. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So he was speaking to all Israel. He gave them the commandments. And he told them, well, I don't want to say what he told them. I'll jump to Deuteronomy 28. Okay, I'm going to jump to Deuteronomy 28. I'm almost there. Okay, Deuteronomy 28 verse 1. And if you faithfully obey the voice of the Lord your God, being careful to do all his commandments that I command you today, the Lord your God will set you on high above all nations of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So now he telling them, hey, if y'all keep these commandments I gave y'all, I'm going to bless y'all through everywhere in the earth, and y'all don't be above everybody on the earth, correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So now we jump from Deuteronomy 28 to Deuteronomy 28 and 15.
Okay.
Moses telling the children of Israel what's going to happen if they don't keep God's commandments, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But if thou will not obey the voice of the Lord thy God, to be careful to do all the commandments and his statutes that I command you today, then all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake you. So now Moses said, "Are you the chosen people of God? These curses gonna be on y'all if y'all don't. Not the world, but the curses gonna be on the children of Israel. Correct?
Right. I think all of that happened in 70 AD because of the destruction of the temple. Right. That's the fulfillment of those covenant curses, and that's the punishment that Jesus talked about in Luke 21 and Matthew 24 for their rejection of him.
Okay. So you think all these curses happened in 70 AD?
Yeah.
So you don't think none apply to today?
What do you mean?
Like you don't think none of these curses that I'm reading apply to today?
Well, I think that's the divorce of Israel is 70 AD, and So, God says, for example, in Hosea that this is a rebellious nation, and he says, I will give them a bill and a covenant of divorce. So that's what I think happened in 70 AD. And Jesus says in the parable in Matthew, I think it's 22, he says that the kingdom will be taken from this nation and given to a people bearing the fruits thereof. So that's the church opening up to the Gentiles. So the covenant, as Paul says in Romans 11, was opened up to the Gentiles, and the sign of that opening up was the destruction of the temple. And that's why the church is the continuation of Israel. It's the true spiritual Israel.
Okay. So when you read the definition of Gentile, it says usually a non-descendant of Israel. So usually means sometimes Gentile can be used talking about a non-Israelite.
Right.
Okay. So now that when you read context, you got to know, when you read the context, you'll know what Gentile is God talking about. Because Gentile can mean a non-Israelite, or it can mean an Israelite who not living like an Israelite. He keeping other customs of nations of people.
Right. So they're acting like a Gentile spiritually. I understand.
Yes. So now, Deuteronomy 28 and verse 16 is the first curse in the Bible that God chosen people had to go through. And it say, curse shall you be in the city, and curse shall you be in the field. So now, being honest, you seem like an honest man. No matter what city that you have been, or country, or anywhere, what nation of people are cursed in every city as a nation? I'm not talking about, oh, you got a few on, stay right here. As a nation of people, what nation of people are cursed in the city?
You understand this, you can be cursed and still, as Paul says in Romans, right? He says, for example, about the Jews, right? He says, what advantage has a Jew? What was the profit of circumcision? Much in every way. To them were committed the oracles of God, right? So to them was given the law, the prophets. They had all these gifts and these blessings, and they're still, in a loose sense, God's people. But that doesn't mean that they're saved. They have to convert to Christ. And that's why Romans 11 predicts a future conversion of the Jews. How could there be a future conversion if there's no Jews?
Okay. Now, what we saying is, Moses telling the children of Israel that they're going to be cursed in every city.
Okay, but I don't understand. What?
So, cursed in every city, which means cursed is a bad thing, correct?
Sure, but what? So what's the conclusion of your argument? What are you trying to say?
I'm asking you questions about how could we get down and find out who are the real, true children of Israel?
Well, do you think the New Testament tells us who the true children of Israel are in the book of Galatians?
Nah.
It doesn't.
Nah. Like it ain't gonna put a sign over their head and be like, oh, this them.
No. It says that those that are in Christ are the seed of Israel.
Okay, so how could you be in Christ?
Baptism.
Okay, so now, for example, now today's English or teachings, they come from man, right?
No.
Okay, so just say, for example, if I say whosoever.
You're into some cult stuff, dude. You're losing me on that one. So again, it's open forum. If you want to discuss the Trinity, it's open. Reno, what's up? Reno, where'd you go? Dropped off.
Soul has brought up anything about the Trinity yet.
Good point. Well, he did it first. Jerry, what's up, Jerry?
Hi, hello.
What's up?
How are you, man? How's it going, Jay?
Pretty good.
So, I had a question. I was reading the New Testament, right? I know it said that Jesus didn't know the hour. So do you believe God Almighty is all-knowing?
Right. Do you understand there's other verses that say that the Son knew all things, right? Like in John 1, where it says that he knew what was in Nathanael's heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So do you think that the way we would go about interpreting is to set one verse against another?
I guess.
No, the answer is no, we wouldn't. So when Jesus says no one knows the hour, it's a rhetorical statement. It's just like when he says there's none good but God, right? That doesn't mean that there's literally nobody good. It's just a way to express the highest level of good is God, right?
Oh, so like sarcasm.
Likewise, if there's other verses that express that the Son knows all things, then it's not literally saying that Jesus doesn't know all things, because Jesus says, for example, in John, that all things that the Father has, he's committed to the Son, right? Every work and every power, everything that the Father does, the Son does likewise. So Jesus has omniscience.
So it's like, can you explain it? It's like sarcasm, or?
It's a figure of speech. It's a rhetorical statement.
Okay.
It's like saying,
Can you give an example of one?
There's none good but God. I just did.
None. So it's like, I'm trying to think of how I'd understand it. Okay. Also, like, a lot of Muslims say that like Jesus can't be God because I'm some new into religion, right? But like they say Jesus dies, so he can't be God. How would I respond to that?
The divine person experiences the severance of the human soul from the human body in death. It's not the divine nature dying. The divine nature is impossible. But the Son can experience the death in his human nature. So he remains impassible. We don't believe that God dies in a literal sense, like the divinity undergoes change.
So like the spirituality remains, but the physical dies.
Well, death is defined by us as the separation of the soul from the body. And since Jesus has a fully human nature, when he undergoes death in that human nature, that means that his soul is severed from his body.
And one more thing very quickly. In the Bible, I know like has a lot of contradictions. Like it says Isaiah was 22 and 42. Like, can you explain that?
Explain what?
It says like in the book of Kings, it says he was 22 when he became king. And the book of Chronicles, it says he was 42.
That's a
like
those aren't contradictions. So everybody admits that there's copyist errors. That's why we don't say that there's one manuscript that is the perfect manuscript. So pretty much every standard scholar on this topic, you can go watch my interview with James Snapp where we covered the copyist errors. They're almost always like scribal errors of putting an extra zero. So it's not any substantial like new theology or something like that. Albie, what's up, dude? Albie, what's up, man?
Hey, Jay, how you doing, brother? God bless you.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well by the grace of God. Hey, Jay, so I was wondering, man, what's your take? I take on Matthew 24:36 and Mark 13:32. I take it as the Lord is claiming to be the Logos. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but the reason why is because he's the one that makes all revelation.
Has to turn his camera off, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Would you turn your camera off so that it's a little smoother?
Yeah, it would probably have your account in danger, I guess, because you could get banned over that. One of you.
Is that a little better? Sorry about that.
No, turn your camera off because you could get banned.
Why does that get you banned?
Sorry about that.
Your camera doesn't get you banned, but while driving, if you have your camera on, that could actually get you banned.
Technically, you can't go live and drive.
Okay, I apologize.
That's all right.
Yeah, I was gonna just try to pick your brain on if you ever considered or do you hold to a position that he's claiming to be the Logos in that in those verses where he only makes known what the Father wants him to reveal. That's all.
Well, I mean, I think that is what the verse is saying, but I mean, he is the Logos. But what's the connection there between that verse and Logos? I don't get it.
Yeah. So the very previous verse would be Matthew 24:35 and Mark 10:31, which is a quote from Isaiah 40 verse 8, which is a claim of deity. What was that?
Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away.
Exactly, which is a claim of deity from Isaiah 40, verse 8. And cross-referencing that with Acts 1:8, like or Acts 1:6, that the Father fixes all the times and authorities, and Christ as the wisdom and the Logos, he'll make them known in a declarative sense. But that aside, if you don't mind, the second question is, I've seen your work on the LPT, and I think you do great work on that. So I've picked your brain a lot. It's a growing, rapid movement now where Muslims think they have, a hand up, right, as they parrot, arguments from the LPT. Would you be able to quickly go over that in
I did a 3-hour live stream the first time I did it. You can find it on my backup channel. It's going to come up when I do the debate with Jake, I'm sure. So I'm going to save some of that for the debate with Jake. But it all has to do with whether we count by identity or count by division. And most of the time in the ancient medieval world, they don't count by identity. So the argument hinges on that.
Gotcha. All right, brother. Well, God bless.
But I still don't understand what your point was about.
Use you mightily.
Okay, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I didn't understand the point about logos and
When are you debating Jake?
January, I think.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Let's do a backup YouTube called
J Mike.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going?
Yo.
Hey, so you still hold the view that atheism or the non-existence of God entails a contradiction?
Well, it entails a contradiction in terms of justification.
What?
In terms of justification for the proposition.
So for the proposition God doesn't exist, you're saying you can make a derivation such that there's a proposition and its negation?
No, that the statements can't be justified. You don't know what that means?
Well, that's just, you think that something not being justificatory means that there's a contradiction?
It could be, yeah.
But necessarily?
Again, it depends on how the person frames the argument. So if you're going to say that there is no God, then you're going to have to be able to justify the claim or how you know that.
Yeah, but that's okay. So you're conceding then that the proposition God does not exist doesn't. You can't actually derive
It
it.
depends on how you're trying to make the argument or how you're what that entails.
I just take when you say it depends that it doesn't necessarily entail a contradiction, or it doesn't entail a contradiction, right? I mean, presumably, if it does, you could just tell me what the proposition and negation are.
Does language assume logic?
I don't know what that question is satisfying my concern.
Logic.
Look, I was just asking you for the contradiction.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to go into.
I predict you're gonna boot me, but if you could just give me the contradiction.
Language assume logic.
Why are you asking me a question when I'm asking you a question? It just sounds like you're dodging, like very clearly.
Language assume logic.
Why are you dodging?
Yes, language assumes logic, and that's the flow of the argument. Doomer, what's up? So that they don't understand like philosophy beyond Reddit or like a YouTube introduction. So they think that repeat stuff from the atheist thread on Reddit, and then when you ask a more nuanced, sophisticated question, he doesn't want to go there because he knows that he's not going to understand what I'm talking about. Doomer, what's up?
Yeah, what's up, man? So I came up to ask, what distinction do you draw when speaking of EED?
What distinction do I draw? I draw the exact same one that Basil and the Cappadocians draw, where they say that the distinction between the persons is identical to the reality of the distinction between the essence and the energy.
Right. It's just when you were having a debate with Astrofire, you said in terms of how they would define it, this would be a majorial distinction, right? And wouldn't this entail separability?
Okay, that's a post-Thomistic. That's not even an Aquinas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a post-Thomistic, late medieval distinction, right? So what type of distinction exists between the persons?
Well, like the real thing, right?
Okay, and so Basil says it's the same as that.
Right. So you wouldn't hold to the idea that the energy and essence are separate realities, but you would say they are identical in one sense and distinct in another? I mean, this is what Palamas says in his letter to Daniel of Enos. He says there is a sense in which essence and energy are identical in God and a sense in which they differ from one another. You would agree with that, right?
Right, because the essence exists in the mode of each person that has it.
Right. But you're not saying that the energy and essence are separate realities, right?
I'm not aware of anybody using the terminology of separate realities. There's no separation in God.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right. Well, yeah, maybe I misunderstood what you meant then when you said there is a major real distinction, because this would entail separability, right?
Well, again, because that's a late scholastic distinction, it's not used by even Aquinas, and so it's therefore certainly not used by anybody prior to that. So all I was trying to say was, you tell me what level you think the distinction between the persons is. What level is that? Because Basil just says it's the same as that.
Right. Okay, yeah. And that's about it. That's all I wanted to ask.
What do we participate in? That's the question here, because the whole debate ends up being about that. Cakes and eclairs.
Hello. Hey, I was wondering. I was reading the Triad by Justin Martyr, and he was talking about.
Okay, not a serious person. Divine inspired. What's up? Bro, I let you on and then you left. You sending me roses. We're hetero here, dude. Don't send me no roses. Gross. Lee Abs, what's up? It's always so much fun over here.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. So I was just listening to your discussion prior, I think, with that Hebrew Israelite guy. Do you subscribe to the idea in Matthew 24 that Jesus was talking about 70 AD? And why would that be the case, seeing as the things that Jesus mentioned are things that are attributed to, or things that basically, how can I put this? Basically, when Jesus was saying that these things that he would that would happen before his coming, including him coming out of the sky on his throne, he said these things would be in accordance to the parable of the fig tree, which happened the day before. So in the parable of the fig tree, he cursed the fig tree.
It's both and, right? So he says in Matthew 23 that all things written in the prophets will come upon this generation. If you read Luke 21, because it's written to a Gentile audience, it's even clearer than what's in Matthew. And so the sign that he says to his disciples, the beginning of Luke 21, he says, you standing here, you see this temple adorned with stones. He says that you standing here, you will see not one stone left upon another. So the destruction of the temple in 70 AD is a type of the destruction of the world at the end of time. And so it's a both and, it's not an either or. The temple is a universe in microcosm. So it's a both and.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Second question, really quickly. So the appointed time mentioned in Daniel several times. It says on each vision that Daniel was given, it was for the appointed time. Now in Matthew 8, you'll see something very interesting where, the demons are responding to Jesus and they tell him, have you come before the appointed time? Would that then mean that the visions in Daniel isn't anything tied to history, but tied to the events prior, just before the second coming of Christ? Because the demons themselves said that Jesus is there before the appointed time.
There could be many appointed times. Just because the phrase appointed time is used, it doesn't mean that there's only one appointed time. There's many appointed times. And Daniel 9 makes it clear that the appointed time there is when you see the temple being removed and everlasting righteousness brought in, and the Prince of Peace makes a covenant. So in the Septuagint, it's even clearer because they put Christ the Prince in Daniel 9. So it's a prophecy of the Messiah making a covenant with the church. He's anointed and the temple is removed. And so Daniel 9 it even says that the anointed one will be put to death. So Daniel 9 is one of the clearest messianic prophecies of his first advent.
Listen, in the Septuagint, it says that Christ will use the prince to come after him to destroy the city and the sanctuary. Who would you say that individual is?
Well,
Because
I'm saying, here's what it says. Know therefore that from the beginning of the word to be answered to build Jerusalem, Christ the Prince, until Christ the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. After that, the anointed one shall be put to death. So I don't know what you mean that he's going to use the prince to destroy.
if you carry on reading in the Septuagint, it's very clear. It says that, and he will destroy the city and the sanctuary with the prince that is coming. I also believe in the book of
Christ
John.
in verse 25.
Oh no, 20. I think it's 27, 26, 27. If you carry on reading, you'll see.
It's not the same prince, right? So Antichrist is called prince sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point. So I'm saying in the first century, who would that individual be? Because in my understanding, that's the individual in Ezekiel 38, 39, who is the chief prince. And in that chapter, that whole chapter, God says, I've spoken about you through the prophets of old, saying I'll bring you against my land in future years when Israel is regathered into the nations. So there's a sort of future application when Israel is restored, it's tied to this individual who is a prince. And God says in that statement, in that whole chapter, that I spoke of you saying I will bring you against my people, in future years. So would you say that prince is anyone in history, or would you say it's yet future and applies to the Antichrist?
No, I think that Daniel 9 is talking about the prince of destruction. There is Nero / Titus. Titus the Vespasian is who destroyed the temple.
Right. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's
good
it.
questions. Yeah. Let's see. We got Truth Over Tea. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on, Jay?
Hey, what's on your mind?
So, I love your work. I love that live stream that you did with IP. That had me order the work of Justin Martyr, so I can look more into that. So, thank you guys for that conversation. I wanted to ask. This may seem kind of like a stupid question, but this is a common objection I get from what I call anti-Trinitarians. In Matthew 28, when Christ says, "Go and baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." They hone in on that language where he says in the name of, and they say, well, what's the name of the Father, what's the name of the Son, and the name of the Holy Spirit? And obviously the Son has a name. The person would be Jesus, or at least the human. Well, is that like a serious claim, or is it just like rhetorical speech when he's saying in the name of, say, when you're baptizing them, like a Catholic or Orthodox would, the name of the Father, Son, and Holy
It's
Spirit?
just like it just means phrase. It's not pointing out the proper name as if Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is one divine person, right? So I'm assuming you're talking about like modalist, right?
There's like a group of these people on TikTok. They don't call themselves modalists. They're like, I don't use any philosophy to name my position, yet they don't realize their position is philosophy. So I had never heard somebody say, what is the name of those three distinct persons? I'm thinking to myself, is that a serious objection? But I think you just answered that for
Oh, I
me.
don't serious. I mean, a lot of this stuff is based on like grammar. A lot of heretics make grammar mistakes, and so they'll think that something like that the name there is a proper name, and it's Father, Son, Spirit. it's it's just saying in the phrase of the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. It's not literally like a proper noun.
Okay. And my second question to you is, do you have like a specific Trinitarian model, like the social Trinity or the like Latin one that you would follow?
No, I mean all Orthodox believe in the monarchical Trinitarianism.
Okay.
I mean that's
Yeah.
the Cappadocian teaching accepted at Constantinople I. So we absolutely reject social Trinitarianism. So the monarchy of the Father is the dogmatic Orthodox view of the Trinity.
Okay. I was just curious on that. And you said you have a video on that?
I have dozens of videos on that.
Okay. I'll check out. Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, all the ones with Dr. Bo Branson. I mean, he did his dissertation on the Cappadocians. So yeah, Kirky, what's up?
Hello. So I wanted to ask a question based off a conversation that I had last night. So I was talking to some reformers, and they were saying that the church is the new Eve, and I know the Orthodox position is that Mary is the new Eve.
Well, the church is too. So it's a both and. Because
Okay, yeah.
if you look at Revelation 12, the church and Mary are they're the same there. Things that are said in Revelation 12 apply to both Mary and the church.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense than just like saying like it's one or the other. But that's like pretty much that question. And then I do have a question in regard to like because I want to learn more about the essence energy distinction. I'm a catechumen currently. So how do we define like the distinction to like a Thomist? Because like when I've talked to Thomists like the past I guess couple months, they've said things like, oh, the way that you guys view the distinction is polytheism, and I kind of don't really.
That's because they have an assumption that distinction entails composition and division. And then when you ask them if the persons in the Trinity are distinct, they say yes, and it doesn't entail composition or division. So they just have these metaphysical assumptions that they can't justify. So ask them to justify their metaphysical assumptions, and they can. They'll just cite Aquinas, or they'll cite Aristotle as if that proves it. So, but I mean, it's just simply not Trinitarian. And the debate ultimately ends up being about what we participate in. And Roman Catholicism and Thomism cannot allow you to participate in an uncreated reality, because for them, that's only the divine essence. So that necessitates a created reality. And I'm pretty sure in John 17, Jesus says that what we participate in is uncreated glory. I mean, is God's glory a creature?
Exactly. It's not a creature, it's uncreated. That's like us being deified. Yeah, that's pretty much. I'm glad that you're alive again, finally. And thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Good questions. Yeah, I can't go live on YouTube because the internet's not working right here. So they're having to work on it outside. So when they get it fixed, I can do my YouTube normal live streams again. Yeah, I didn't use a bidet the whole time in Europe. I saw them there, but to me, it's people are like, oh, well, then your butt's dirty, and it's like, nah. Why do I want to sit where other people have been cleaning their butts? You know what I mean? It's like I'm not gonna use a dang hose that people have been sticking in their butt as if that's gonna make me clean when I already got a clean booty. Like pretty much always have had a clean booty. You know what I mean? Like my booty, I ain't never had a dirty butt ever. So it's open forum. Topic is Trinity. I figured that would get like the most Protestant Muslim furor, but it seems like we always get. I've been getting more and more Hebrew Israelites. They've been popping up. Even when I did the Twitter stream, we had some Hebrew Israelites popping up and popping off. Paradigm popping off. Let's see. I don't know, that one dude was talking so much smack and then he didn't come on. I guess it's because he doesn't have enough followers. So you got to have like 300 or something. All these weird rules over here. I would have never known. So let's see, Axe. What's up, Axe?
Hey, yo, I'm a Trinitarian, but I just really like your YouTube channel. I just wanted to say that.
Thanks. Appreciate that. You got something on your mind?
What's that?
I said, do you have something on your mind? I guess not. Jerry, did you want to ask another question?
No, he left.
Jerry got a Pakistani dial up calling from a toilet. What's up, Jerry? Try again.
Bro, kick him.
That's what we got on TikTok. That's the level that we're dealing with here on TikTok. I told y'all that it's like a whole new level over here, right? Didn't he ask a serious question earlier and then he like went full retorted?
Hey, why you like palm trees so much, Jay?
Because of Miami Vice, I guess. I don't know. It just works, I guess, as a nice. He's farting for us. Okay, cool. Nice. I guess there's just no hope. I mean, basically TikTok is just a black pill engine to make us all realize that, like, you know, when you young people here on TikTok, when y'all grow up, y'all ain't going to be able to run shit. Y'all ain't going to be able to run the water department. You know what I mean? Y'all can't run the airplanes.
Yeah, and he's talking about y'all, by the way, not me.
It's gonna crash. The water department is going to turn to sewer. So it's just the end of the dang world over here. Dude, you can't, I'm not trying to be mean to you, man. You can't talk, so I'm not gonna let you on. Who wants to come on? We got all kinds of haters up in here, all kinds of weirdos, all kinds of creeps. So if you want to come on and ask a question, request to speak, if you're able to, I guess not everybody can. It's been as wild as I expected. It's always feral over here. Topic, I thought it would be Trinity, but we're not really on Trinity today, but that's okay. So where's the Calvinists at? Where's our Protestants at? Where's our Muslims at? I mean, the Hebrew Israelites are stepping up to the plate, but the Muslims are suspiciously absent. Is it Ramadan today? Is it Ramadan? Ramen noodle dawn for the Muslims? Are they fasting and stirring up ramen noodles around that big black rock? What's up, Austin? It's ramen noodle dawn.
Sir, I have a question. Do you think gangsterism goes around the world?
Can you even talk?
Oh my gosh, I'm being shot up.
Can you even talk, girl? Can't even talk. I love it over here. I'm starting to like it. I'm just starting to go with the craziness. It's like, let's just do it, man. Let's just.
Brain's gonna deteriorate.
My brain is turning into ramen noodles right now. What's she even say? She's like a ostrich. Samina, what's up, Samina? You got some more squawking for us? You gonna do a little banshee talking for us? Banshees over here rapping. Female banshees rapping.
It's contagious.
All right, I guess we're gonna have to do this speech impediment, bro. Come on, dude. Try to get it out. Trolls over here.
No, so I have Parkinson's disease. I don't know why you are mocking me. So I was wondering about the Trinity. It's polytheism. So we can talk about
again. Goodbye. So
Don't run away
in your life. Yes, I'm scared of you. Why are you mocking me? I want to talk about the essence energy section, even though I'm talking like a complete cork. What's up, Hail? Hail Caesar.
Hey, Jay, what's going on, man? I won't take up much of your time. Huge fan. Like all the work you've talked about with the Tavistock book, and I was wondering if you could do like some more analysis on that on your YouTube channel.
I mean, I've done like 5 or 6 talks on it, so like
Yeah,
how many more do you need?
I don't know, man. I enjoy it. I enjoy like all the analysis you do of like all the books and whatnot. Just looking for any other good recommendations. I recently picked that up on Amazon. It's like $30.
Yeah, well, John Coleman's book on socialism is I just got that. That's pretty good. So for the global elite text, I think next I'll probably do. I might do Kalergi's book, Count Kudenhoff Kalergi's book. That's pretty racy and spicy. I don't know if I can get away with that one. Or I might do Noah Yuval Harari's book Homo Deus. So those sound like 2 pretty good
Have you ever done, Jay, pedagogy of the oppressed? Have you ever I don't know if you've ever talked about that. Raul, man, I forget his name, but so real quick, I don't want to take a bunch of your time, but
I'm writing it down, and it's by somebody named Raul.
I think so. Yeah, it's called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. There was a guy that was going to school at U of M for basically plant science or something, and he was getting his master's degree from Cal, and everyone was required to read this book, and it had nothing to do with his subject matter. And I think it goes up back into cultural Marxism, stuff like that. But it's a really famous book that most people that get their masters, I think, anytime after the 2000s were forced to read. I don't know if you were familiar with it, but I think I'm going to read the Anglo-American next. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, that's a classic. Definitely should read that one. Yeah, I'll get this one. I like to read these left toward books for sure.
I know the guy's from Brazil. That's all I know about him, is that I think it was written in the 70s, maybe the late 60s. I don't know too much about it, but yeah, thanks a lot, Jay, man. I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm going to keep watching all of your stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
that. Kind words from a kind man. I also need to do Alvin Toffler's book, right? So for those that don't know, I lecture through the writings of the global elite. So the power elite, typically they put all of their ideas, their plans, their stratagems into their writings. And so what I do on my channel, in part, I do a lot of things, but one thing we do is lecture through those texts. And we've lectured through about 50 or 60 of them so far. I usually keep it to people from the establishment. So you can't say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, if I'm lecturing from their books, you can't say it's a conspiracy theory. But we haven't done Toffler yet, and I've had a lot of requests for Toffler. So Paulo Freire, all right, appreciate that. Paulo Freire. Yeah, I'll get that book. I always like to collect those, and some of the best global elite texts have come from the audience suggesting books. So I always get really good suggestions from people. Thank you, Judy Jude. Hey, Judy Jude, don't be up. I can't say any of the words I want to say over here. I'll get banned. Every time I want to talk, I'll get banned. Have we done videos on Scientology? We did one in-depth video on Scientology 8 years ago. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you type in Scientology, there's about an hour and a half breakdown of that stuff. Also, my buddy, the Russia analyst, Mark Hackard, he did a really good podcast on CIA, Scientology, and the history of the Knights of Malta with Tim Kelly, and that's still on my channel. So, okay, you can come on. I don't care. Somali skeptic. Ooh. He's fussing. He's sassing me. Thinks I'm scared of him. I'm terrified, bro.
Oh, hello, man. I'm becoming an epistemologist. I was wondering.
You're becoming a pirate? You a Somali pirate?
What's up?
You a Somali pirate? An epistemological pirate?
Nah. Would you rather be a crusader or a pirate? I'd rather be a pirate, me personally. So,
I agree. Actually, the Crusaders are a bunch of Skittles, trad cats. So I'll pass on that.
So I'm trying to become a epistemologist. And do you have any knowledge on epistemology?
I have some knowledge.
So I was going to talk about language and concepts. So to what extent does knowledge limit or enhance our understanding of the world?
I mean, it's a tough question. I don't know.
I know it's a tough question, and I know you're going to make a big blunder. So answer my question.
I'm going to make a big blunder, right? Well, you tell me what your view is, and tell me what the right view is. What am I supposed to believe?
No, I want your answer. I don't want you running away from my question.
But I'm so scared, dude. I'm terrified.
I know you're scared. I know you're terrified. Just like how Jesus was terrified from the Romans. So answer my question.
Jesus was terrified from the Romans.
He's a Muslim, by the way.
I'm not surprised. Answer your question. Does language limit our understanding of the world? I think it's necessary for understanding of the world.
So, what about, can we have knowledge that is independent of language?
Sure.
Stop running. Answer my question.
I just answered your question. All right,
I bet. So look, I have.
What an idiot. So, anybody want to have a serious conversation? Because that was the stupidest thing I've heard all day. Jesus was terrified. Jesus submitted to being crucified by the Romans, but he was terrified of the Romans. So I'm answering his questions, and he says I'm running from him. That's a waste of time. If you want to have a profitable conversation, just act like a normal person, not a Somali pirate epistemologist. What's up, dude? You gonna come on? Where you at, Divine Mind? What are my thoughts on atheistic Satanism? Do I play games? I play mind games. What's the video game you play? Mind games. We got a Somali pirate epistemologist. He's gonna come steal our arguments. Doomer, no, not interested in. What are you gonna do now, Doomer? What are you gonna bring? Uh-oh, bro. What you got, bro? Yeah, with this, I'm kissing you with a soy face. That's the only kiss you've gotten, bro. Oh, I'm sorry. That was such an epic takedown. Epic takedown. Do you have anything, or you just was this so you got?
Doomer has to mute and unmute himself. Doomer, hold on, bro. Okay, I'm about to say they can't even hear him anyways, bro. In the comments.
This is like, I feel like I'm at the zoo over here, right? It's like the zoo, and basically we're just throwing peanuts and shit, right? Poo poo everywhere. This is the zoo. Divine, what's up? You're gonna take us down. You had all the arguments against the Trinity.
Hello, Mr. J. Dyer, sir.
Well, hello, Mr. J. Dyer. It's
No, I'm actually
always
Catholic,
foreign,
so
dude.
I was trolling earlier, but
Why
I'm
was
serious
everybody
question.
foreign on the? I am so foreign. I'm
No,
calling you
but
from
actually, I'm serious
I am
question,
calling you
bro.
from a
Can you hear me?
Pakistani toilet, and I will take you down. I'm
Really?
epistemological pirate from Pakistan.
Wait, here's greasy. Anyways, yo, so J. Dyer, I have a question for you, real quick. So you know, Martin, not Martin. I mean, in Mark 10:18, you know, when Christ says, "No one is good but God alone," right? These Muslims come around and say that Justin Martyr, Eusebius, Origen, and Hippolytus, they when they quote it, they say there's one who is good, the Father in the heavens, right? So
Right.
how do you answer their questions with that one?
Right. So Jesus is saying that,
Yeah.
truly speaking, ultimately speaking, the only good is God, right?
Yeah.
Just like when he says no one knows but the Father, right? It doesn't mean that literally no one else in the world or no other being is good. Isn't Michael the Archangel good? Or does Jesus mean that nobody's good? I mean,
Okay.
it's a figure of speech.
So that's the answer to the question. Okay, thank you. Okay. So what should we say is the original like verse? Because Origen, Hippolytus, and Justin Martyr, when they quote.
Who cares what Origen says? Origen is ended up being a heretic. So what?
No, because what I'm trying to say is they quote the verse, right? But when they quote it, they say, none is good but the Father in heavens. But in our Bible, it says, none is good but God alone. So obviously there's like a discrepancy there. What's your opinion on that? Because this is a popular Muslim argument, you know.
So it's not a discrepancy. What's up, dude?
God. Okay, my Wi-Fi is shit. Okay. I have a question. Okay, so you go by logic, right?
To a degree, yeah. I think logic has limits, but we try to be as logical as we can be, sure.
Okay, so if I told you like today I started to fly, like I jumped out of a window and I flew, like you wouldn't believe me, right?
Right.
So
Highly unlikely.
okay. So, what do you believe? That God spit on dirt, put it on someone's eyes, and cured their blindness. How is that believable?
Well, if God did that, if God exists, couldn't God do that?
He couldn't.
If he exists, could he do that?
No.
He
Like
couldn't.
for me, no.
I'm not
Why?
asking you if you believe that he exists. So I understand you don't think God exists, but I'm saying if God does exist, he could do that, right?
I don't think he would.
Okay, but could he?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you if you think he would, but could he do that? Does he have the power to do that?
No, he hasn't.
Okay. Why if God exists, he doesn't have the power to do that? Why not? All right. So exactly. It's not even it's literally like this is like I feel like I'm at middle school here. I think I am. This is middle school.
Hey Jay, what's up?
Mhm.
So I just need like any sources that you have on like the Eastern view of like metaphysics, or if you know if it's very different from the Western.
I would read the book by Yaroslav Pelikan, Christianity and the Metamorphosis of Natural Theology, Pelikan, Pelikan. That's about a 400-page introduction to Cappadocian metaphysics, and that will give you a good grounding in how they view created versus uncreated, the energies, the triad, universals, particulars, the one and the many. All of that is dealt with in that Pelikan book. And I would argue, yeah, ultimately, the metaphysics of the Eastern Church is definitely different than the Latin Church. Yaroslav Pelikan, Pelikan, Christianity and the Metamorphosis of Natural Theology. It's an introduction to the Cappadocian metaphysic by one of the most famous history of ideas, history of theology writers, Pelikan.
I appreciate it. I'm about to get it now.
I don't know, Ruckus, I don't know why you keep asking me about stuff when you coming on giggling. I mean, I've done countless live streams on St. Cyril. Maybe you should pay attention to stuff that I talk about. Disciple, uh-oh.
I know you ran from the quote-unquote Somali pirate, so I have another. So look, I have an objection to your answer to my question.
So you think I ran when I answered his questions?
You didn't answer it sufficiently. Do you know if it's a
Hi,
Q&A session and I ask you a question and you give me your response that's not sufficient, I'm going to contest it.
Are you?
Of course, as a Somali epistemologist, philosopher,
Are you a Somali?
poet. What's up?
Are you a Somali epistemologist?
Of course, I've been studying philosophy for the last 6 years. I have 3 teachers I study under. You want to know the doctors' names?
Yeah, I'm gonna write them down and Google them right away. Tell me right
Of
now.
course, I have Dr. Michael Jones. That's
Uh-oh.
number 1.
Michael
Number 2.
Jones. Oh shit.
He's bad. Is he bad? No. What do you think of him conceding?
Talking about. Are you serious? You gotta be.
Yeah. You know, I'm serious. I'm serious. Huh?
So
what do you think of what's it called? Inspiring philosophy conceding that under classical logic the Trinity is illogical. Do you think that's a bad response to the argument?
I do.
Did you lecture him after the talk he had with the atheist?
I'm not gonna lecture him when he's not in my church.
So do you believe he's a heretic?
Do you have a question related to anything?
The Trinity? Of course.
These people are ridiculous. I got scared because of Dr. Michael Jones. Like I'm supposed to know who his random ass professor is. I studied under 3 teachers. Okay. Well, I studied under 4 teachers. So how's that, dude?
Michael Jones is inspiring philosophy.
Oh, that's right. So was he making a joke?
Yeah, he's trying to just make a joke.
That was really funny. Mustard seed. Okay.
Oh, how are you?
How
are you, Jay? My name is Dave.
Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question because I was going over this pretty recently. I see that because you're up here, you must have sound wisdom on this. A few colleagues of mine were discussing that in the Trinity there's an order, as in the Father's will is above Jesus and the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit isn't technically as powerful as the Father or Jesus, and that Jesus is the Father.
That's
I mean, obviously, I know this isn't biblical, this isn't scriptural. I've shown them plenty of context proof, but I wanted to get your opinion on it, since I've seen you up here.
Yeah, I mean, all of the powers and prerogatives and works that the Son possess, or that the Father possesses, are ascribed to the Son and the Spirit. So there's no basis to think that there's an ontological subordination. Things can be subordinate in different ways, right? A father and a son in their relationship, the son is subordinate to the father in a human relationship, but that doesn't mean that they possess a different nature because there's a subordination. So I have just as much human nature as my father has. Our natures are equal. And if you think about a kingly analogy, right, the king can pass on to his son, the prince, all the same powers that the king possesses. And so he has it as a sort of an inheritance or a bequeathing, right? It doesn't make him, because he's after the Father, lesser in any ontological sense. And so the fact that people just can't understand or make a distinction between logical or ordinal distinction or subordination and metaphysical subordination is just, it's not your fault, it's not our fault, right? So if they don't understand the analogy to human beings, I don't know what else you can say. I mean, Jesus says multiple times over in the Gospel of John that everything that the Father does, he does likewise. So how do you get subordination in an ontological sense out of that? It just doesn't make any sense. So people are really hard-headed and they want to cling to their ridiculous views. Inactive. No.
Anyways, so Jay, what modal scope do you invoke when you say the triune God is necessary?
What modal scope?
Yeah, modal scope. This is like logic 101. There's logical, metaphysical, so on and so forth, necessity. Logical necessity would be no supposition prior to their proposition, therefore it's logically necessary and it cannot fail in any possible world. Metaphysical necessity would be suppositional, as in, for example, motion happening in the world, but in actuality, motion is happening. Denying it, it would be contradictory, absurd. But there's a possible world where motion doesn't even happen because there's nothing to move. That's correct. So what modal scope do you invoke when you ascribe the triune God with necessity?
Any modality at all.
Yeah, dude. So logical?
Any modality at all.
So, okay, so for something to be logically necessary, a proposition P is necessary if and only if its negation is impossible. So what would be the negation? I mean, what would be the contradiction in negating a triune God?
That you wouldn't have a justification for logic itself.
How does that follow?
Because any proposition relies on logic.
How does that follow?
Because any proposition
I can make the same assertion when I say I accept a 4-person God, 5-person God, 6-person God, and make the same assertion. You have to prove your assertions.
Different metaphysics, so it's not the metaphysics.
What do you mean different metaphysics? This has nothing to do with metaphysics. I'm speaking from a lot. This is modality 101.
Nothing to do with metaphysics.
So again, what is the logical contradiction in denying the Trinity?
You can't justify logic at all.
Why?
Because the proposition that any argument you make assumes logic.
So what modal scope are you invoking? When
prior to
what modal scope?
The argument that I'm making is
you said I'm using metaphysics. When I said nothing about metaphysics, I'm saying, dude, are you okay? Stick to the topic. Stick to the topic. I said, what modal scope do you invoke? If you invoke logical necessity, its negation is impossible. Any modality is so. Hold on, you cannot just.
I can, because I'm saying logic in any sense at all. It's prior to what you're arguing. That's why he thought that he had me, and then he got nervous when I started asking him. And he said, well, why can't I just say a 4-person God? And I was like, because that metaphysic wouldn't work for grounding metaphysics at all. And he's like, well, I'm not talking about metaphysics. No, I'm pretty sure a 4-person God, you're invoking metaphysics.
Where whenever you're speaking, when someone's speaking over you, it's hard to hear you over their mic because, you know, the iPhone mic is pretty bad. So you probably need like an external mic to speak over them or anything like that.
I'll talk louder. Is that better? I'm also got it propped up to where I think people can't. Charlie, what's up?
Perspective. I've been reading William Lane Craig's book, The Quest for the Historical Adam, and he talks a lot about Genesis 1 through 11 and whether it's like a mytho history or how we should really take that. I was wondering what your perspective was on that.
No, I don't think it's myth. I agree with it in a historical sense.
Oh, that Genesis 1 through 11 are in fact historical events that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you have any a soft spot for how things are changing and kind of what's going on in culture today to, I don't know, push the other direction? You know what I mean? Like we take these things maybe not necessarily as literal, but as literary devices to show bigger truths. Like, I mean, in the sense that there's like an actual flood or like an actual, like, you know, tree of good and evil or knowledge of good and evil and stuff like that. You take those to be directly historical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that Jesus in the Gospels takes them to be historical?
No, that's a good question, because I know he obviously alludes to Adam and Eve, right? But
what does he allude to it, or does he cite them as?
No, that's fair, totally fair. I guess here's my perspective. Craig says that it's like mytho-history in the sense that there were emperors of Rome that really existed, but there might have been stories around them that were mythical in nature to prove like bigger points, you know, about how like they rule and stuff like that or whatever. And I'm wondering if that's the same thing about Adam and Eve. I haven't made my mind up on the situation. I'm wondering maybe from your perspective why you think it's necessarily super literal.
Because Paul says that Christ is the second Adam, and that would necessitate Adam being a historical individual, because the traditional teaching of the church is that it's a 6-day creation.
Okay.
The Sixth Ecumenical Council condemns people who would say that death is natural.
What do you mean by this second thing? The death is natural, like
death is not natural; it's unnatural. Death entered as a result of the fall.
I gotcha. I see what you're saying. Doing a little crossfire here. Do you as a do Orthodoxy, like, do they believe in predestination?
No, not in a Calvinist sense. No.
How do you how do you wrestle with Romans 9 out of curiosity? Or is that the wrong way to phrase the question? I mean, whatever you want.
I mean, our theology begins with Christology. It doesn't begin with soteriology. And if you look at what happens with Reformation soteriology, it begins with, Reformation theology begins with soteriology, and that kind of determines the rest of the system. And I mean, I would say there's bigger problems in Romans 9 in Reformation theology, such as, you know, the Son being damned. Do you believe that?
I didn't get that last question. What did you say?
I said, such as the Son being damned. Do you believe that?
The Son being damned?
Yeah, in our
like descending into hell, or as in like carrying the weight of our sins and then therefore like
being rejected by the Father. I mean, that's the classical Reformation teaching.
Sure. Let me bite on that.
Okay, well, I mean, then you're not Trinitarian, because you can't split the Trinity. The Son is a divine person.
Yeah, I guess I don't even know how to unpack that necessarily, but I guess, I mean, do you believe that God's decree is what determines salvation of one versus the other?
No, I don't. I think that God created the world with secondary causes, and so I'm not an occasionalist. So we're not Muslims, and the idea that God is the direct cause of every event is called occasionalism. That's the Islamic view, which I guess some Calvinists share.
So couldn't his secondary means that he's decreed? Not saying that. Yeah, I'm wondering if you think by his secondary means God uses that to save someone versus like
Secondary
not save somebody.
causes, not means, causes that individual beings have the ability to be their own created causes. Because many Calvinists end up rejecting that, like Jonathan Edwards. So is the divine decree, is God the immediate cause of every single event, or does God create a world where there's also secondary causes? Because Christology teaches that human nature has its own will and energy. So
what would be an example to distinguish those, Jay?
I've done like 1,000 live streams on that. So if you want to come back and make your argument without talking over me, if you want to have a conversation, we can do that. But if you just ramble over me, then we're not going to have a conversation. So the argument that I'm making is prior to formal logic. So you're trying to couch the transcendental argument in a formal logic when it's a metalogical argument. You understand that? I'm waiting for him to come on. He's not muted.
Yeah. For the people in the comments, he's not on yet. So there he is.
Oh, he dropped off. Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Truth of God.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Modalist.
As soon as I get on, I just that's crazy. But according to Matthew 28:19, what's the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit?
It's just a phrase. It's not one proper name.
It's not.
Okay, this is unbelievable.
Oh, can you hear me? Last time it glitched out. Anyways, so again, my bad for being a little too aggressive. So again, in logic, we have 3 existential modal categories.
It's a metalogical argument.
Again, impossible, contingent, necessary, and which
metalogical argument.
So you don't even know the name of the argument. So what modal scope are you invoking when you say the Trinity is necessary?
Is there such a thing as metalogical argumentation? You just said there's not. It doesn't exist.
I'm saying that's not the argument I'm invoking.
It is the argument. You think I don't know the argument I'm making?
So again, can you actually stick to the topic and not argue for semantics?
The argument is that is the topic.
What modal scope are you invoking when you say the Trinity is necessary?
It's a metalogical argument. It's prior to that.
And can you actually answer my question?
Yeah, so you can't deal with this argument because you don't actually know what you're talking about.
What modal scope are you
think
invoking?
is this killer argument, and it's nothing. So I talk about something fundamental to what you claim to be an expert in, and you say that there aren't metalogical arguments. So you're a fraud, dude. You don't even know what you're talking about. You guys just play games. He said there are no metalogical arguments. That ended him right there.
ايش في تيزك؟
What?
ايش في تيزك؟
No idea what you're talking about.
أنيك أمك والله.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Rashi and Nozad, you want to come on and argue as well that there's no such thing as metalogic? It doesn't exist. The people that have taken their YouTube courses are going to set us straight. Solomon Chef.
Hi Jay. Hi Jay. How are you, Jay?
Very much. I am very much.
Oh, can you hear me, Jay?
Very
Can you hear
much.
me?
So much, not so.
Okay. Why your voice so soft now?
Because of you.
Okay. All right. Can I talk something?
No. Go ahead.
Why no? Why no?
Yes.
Come
But
on. You
no.
you invite me. You
Go. But
invite me.
no.
You invite me so I can talk.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm just messing
All
with
right. All right. Okay. I'm very curious about you know about the Judaism, about Christianity, about Muslims. Frankly, I'm a Muslim, not a very good Muslim, but I'm a Muslim to be honest. But I observe that most of believer, when I say believer, means that those that believe in a book, all right? These three, between Jews, the Christians, and the Muslim, they got similarity. Agree?
you. They got seniority. Is that what you said?
I mean, those that believe in a book, when I say those that believe in the books, either you are the Jews,
Right.
the Christians, and the
Right.
Muslims,
Right.
all of us, believe in the books that have been sent to them. Am I right?
Yeah.
And I say again, I reiterate that these three categories, we have a very quite similarity in one way or another.
There's some similarities. Okay.
So that's why. So I always find it very. Uh, I should say I don't know how to select the word. I should say amusing, amuse. Yeah, amuse is the word. Sorry, my English is not that good, but I will try. So means that three of these religions should sometimes be to share. I mean, despite of our differences, we should share and just believe what we have to believe. That's it.
But
No, I
Jay,
think
you changed yours from an
we're doing
ontological
very
claim.
different topics. So Jay, Mike, do you don't think metalogical arguments exist?
I'm just curious on what the contradiction is entailed by
So
atheism.
you're not going to deal with the argument, right?
Well, you got to understand the dialectic.
Metalogical argument, and what's your reply to that?
My
So
reply
you don't
is
even know what it
the
is,
same question I've asked you that hasn't
which
been
is not
been
because it's
answered.
just not addressing the argument, right? Because the argument is prior to what you're asking.
So I just want a concession that you can't derive the contradiction. I'm happy to answer your questions.
It doesn't apply to your objection because it's a metalogical argument. So you're asking me to make a logical argument, and my argument is a meta prior to above logic argument.
So you concede it's not
So you don't understand what it is.
So you concede that theism
So you just want to
isn't
clip.
a theorem
You
of
don't
logic,
understand.
and you can't
So
derive.
you don't even know what metalogical argumentation
I don't know
is.
why
Thank
you're.
you for
I don't know why.
showing us that you don't know what that is. Nor did your idiot friend know. Good job. So yeah, clip that because that's not going to do anything. Two dudes that want to play games. I mean, that's like the lowest level of atheists, right? So they won't reply to any actual argumentation. They've set it up to where it's like, I want you to give me a logical argument when you're making a metalogical argument. That's what they're trying to do. So, I mean, you can do that, but that's avoiding the argument that I'm making. And you can do that all day long. If you don't want to argue, if you don't want to reply to what tag is, that's up to you. So, you can do that all day long. Eduardo. I mean, if you took a philosophy class, like a metaphysics class, you would start to learn those kinds of, or actually a philosophy of science class. And then you would learn what that kind of argumentation is, what that level of argumentation is. So it's like saying, Ratio Noza, why don't you come on? You've been talking this whole time. Do you make an essence existence distinction? I mean, existence in God is an energy. So God's energies are distinct from his essence. So do you want to come on, or you just want to talk in the chat?
I have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry, had some issues with AirPods lately. I'm tuning in a little late, I suspect. I've never heard the term metalogical argumentation, but
So basic ideas in philosophy, right? And we've never heard of this. Okay.
yeah, I just wanted a little clarification. Is this what like potentially would be a response to something like the primacy of existence argument?
That's just a metaphysical topic. It's not metalogic.
Gotcha. What's a good reference for metalogical argumentation?
The Transcendental Argument.
Oh, okay. I'm vaguely familiar with that from your channel, but I won't say I'm super knowledgeable on it. Do you personally have a response for the primacy of existence argument?
Prax Ben, what's up?
Because Eduardo invited me, so
You cut out. Can you start over?
I just came up because Eduardo invited me.
Okay.
He was talking about the debate that you had with Liquid Zulu. He's a friend of mine, about the state and whether or not the state is something necessary from Christianity. I'm personally a Christian and an anarchist, so I guess that's why Eduardo sent me the live.
Right. So I asked him to justify his claims and he couldn't. So do you have justification for the claims?
Oh yeah, I would say with just like a basic analysis of even something as simple as the 10 Commandments, you can see that the state is by definition not compatible with Christian ethics. So like, for example, it's necessary to steal in order to maintain a state. Sorry?
You're not a Christian.
I am a Christian, yeah.
I mean, you can call yourself that, but you're not historic Christian. You're not a historic Christian in any sense, because historic Christianity affirms the existence of the state.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's been lots of different disagreements on the state, and obviously there's been different debates on the nature of the state.
The first 1,000 years of Christianity exemplifies the sacred role of the state. Romans 13, Paul says that the state is a diakonos who has the sword. Skeptical Keith, gonna set us straight. I just made an article.
Hey Jay, I've been following you for a long time, but also on the internet.
Jim Bob, I'm not gonna do this with you. But you can stay here. I'm sorry, did I spoil things? You can help me talk to these insane people.
Fine.
They're absolutely nuts.
Fine.
So, Prax Ben, I did make an argument. I pointed out that the first 1,000 years of Christianity has a very explicit doctrine of the sanctity of the state. Romans 13 is an example. So you can say that's not an argument if you want. Yeah, because you don't know what you're talking about. That's why. So it's just a waste of time.
Hey Jay, can you go over the thing you did with J Mike? He said something about metalogical or metaphysical arguments.
It's a fundamental category that you would have if you had a mid-level philosophy course in metaphysics. And he said, oh, that's not a thing, right? So they have this idea that the proposition that God doesn't exist has to be put into a formal statement to be disproven. And they don't understand that the Transcendental Argument is an argument about logic and metaphysics itself, the possibility of even doing it. So it's prior to any proposition, because it's about the possibility of doing propositions at all. So that's why it's prior to the arguments that they're making. And they want to say, no, you have to state it in this single form, and you don't have to, right? Because if I did want to state it in a single form, it would be about the entire paradigm as a whole. But they have no idea what you're talking about. They think that the church fathers teach theocracy, correct?
So, in other words, for them to say you have to state it in X form, that statement for them they couldn't put in the form they're requesting, right?
Well, the argument that I make for tag is prior to doing any propositional formal logic, because it's about the possibility of doing logic at all. And they're like, yeah, but what's the propositional form of that? It's like, it's prior to that. It's a metalogical argument. So metalogic has to do with the existence and the status of logic itself, right? It's kind of like It's the difference between doing math and asking a question of what is math. Okay, so for example, I'm not saying you can't make it a propositional claim, but a propositional claim about a paradigm as a whole is a different level than a specific proposition about something within the paradigm. So I don't know why you guys can't understand this, but it's just there's levels where people just can't grasp stuff. It's not my fault. So let me make an analogy. It's the difference between doing a math problem like 2 + 2 = 4 versus asking the question of what's the ontological status of 2, 2, and 4, you see. So the status of what is 2, 2, and 4 is different than the question of prove to me 2 + 2 = 4. They're two different levels of questions. And so it's just a really fundamental recurring problem of atheists that they think that every argument or everything has to be squished into one type of argument, one type of form, you see. And they're not grasping that this is an argument at a different level. It's a higher meta level argument. Does that make sense? Again, it's the difference between what is 2 + 2 = 4 versus does 2 + 2 = 4.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Skeptical Keith?
Yeah, I guess. Fine.
They gave themselves away though when they said that there's no such thing as metalogic. Yeah, good job, dude. You just blew your cover there. Let's see. Next guy. What's up, next guy? I don't know. I think the only way to handle this is the way you do it, Keith, which is to come on as these characters. Because if you come on here as an actual person, it's like being in a zoo.
Well, it's like being in the lobby of hell if there was a lobby of hell.
Are you gonna say anything?
Oh yeah, I just had a question.
Uh-huh.
So like, how would you respond to like someone saying, "How did Pope Leo have the authority to reject Canon 28?"
Do you know what the argument was that he made?
Oh yeah, it runs contrary to the canons of Nicaea.
Right.
So you agree with that?
So it had nothing to do with papal supremacy.
Wait, but do you think it actually like ran contrary or no?
It had nothing to do with papal supremacy. It had to do with violating the order of Canon 6 of Nicaea. So it doesn't do anything for the papist.
Well, okay, so like, why does Pope Leo say like that?
Mm-hmm. Good job, dude. Yes, sir. What are you? What are you? What are you? I'm just messing with you. Go ahead. Will is a faculty of nature. Correct.
Lewis, mute yourself and unmute yourself. The guest can't hear you.
Nobody can hear you for some reason. Maybe.
Please just go ahead with your argument.
I'll restate your argument if they can't hear you. Yeah. Generation of the Son is by nature, not by will. It's an Arian argument to say that the generation of the Son is by will. In fact, Gregory of Nyssa replies to this in against Eunomius because it's one of the Arian arguments. They said the Son is a product of will and energy. Right. He's a properly generated son of the Father's nature, not the Father's will, because he possesses the same will as the Father. Yeah, good question. Absolutely. Yeah. So for those that couldn't hear him, he was just simply asking, is will a property of person or nature? And of course, it's a property of nature, hence why the Trinity has one will, hence why Christ possesses two wills, because he has two natures. And then he asked, well, is Jesus produced from the Father by the Father's will? And the answer is no. He's a product of the Father's nature, right? He's not a product of counsel or will. Can y'all hear me, or you just didn't hear that dude? Is my sound good? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know why we couldn't hear him. Enoch. So you're calling racist being silly and doing voices. I mean, you guys are ridiculous. This is pathetic. Yeah, impersonating people's not racist, dummy. Do you want to unmute, Enoch? What's up? All right, you dropped off. Try again. Oh, I don't know if we can handle any more of these crazy people. All right, I might have. I mean, this is. So the topic was originally the Trinity. I don't think we had a little bit of Trinity today. So yeah. So first of all, how do you determine that that's quote racist? Says who? Says you. Who has a poor connection? Me? Yeah, I'm gonna keep blocking you too. Good job.
He's talking about himself.
Oh, he has a poor connection. Okay. Rano, what's up?
I just want to say I'm a big fan of your work and appreciate what you do. Just have a question about 1 John 5:7. So I've heard that like it was a verse that was added on later, and apparently there was a person called Dr. Papas who wrote like an article on like the defense of the Trinity in 1 John 5:7. What do you think about this?
We did a stream with James Snap, who's a New Testament scholar, on 1 John 5:7, and I would say you could go watch that interview that we did. It's a very late addition. I don't think that it's not like if that's not in the text, we can't prove the Trinity. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But thank you for that question. So how long have we been going? I might have to.
Are you enjoying the TikTok side?
I think I'm gonna enjoy it, and then it's just Enoch. Did you want to come back on?
Would you like me to send you a background that attracts a lot more people?
I don't know. Because I mean, what would you put back there? What attracts people?
It would just simply like because the TikTok side is just like here. Let me show you. Are you able to give me a big screen?
Just we'll do it another time. I don't know. I'm getting kind of tired, so
All right.
I might have to call it a night. Any last questions before we call it a night? It's a farewell experience as always. Dude, I'm not interested in, I don't know why you keep requesting. Enoch, I thought you wanted to come on. Where you at? No, nobody else. All right. Well, thank you guys. We had a lot of fun. Maybe next time. Big John Steele. Oh, we got a last call for alcohol.
Hey man, how's it going?
Yo.
How do you connect Teg to a God, and then more specifically to a triune God?
Well, by the Christian metaphysics. So when I make the argument initially, I point out that the transcendental categories that make knowledge, ethics, metaphysics possible, right? If you list them out, these various categories, they have to exist in some grounded being. They can't just be abstractions because they have to function together. And so the divine mind functions to do that. So that means that if God's personal, if there's intentionality, then we have meaning and telos in the universe because it's grounded in God. So it's a form of divine conceptualism. And then the triune God is unique in the way that it solves problems like the one and the many.
So why can't something like mathematics and the concept itself just be things that exist without this greater mind?
Because mathematics are abstract and impersonal. They don't have any intentionality or telos.
Can you explain that to me like I'm 5?
They don't have. They're not relational. They're abstract, right? Like the number 7 doesn't give you purpose. It doesn't give you. It doesn't. Things aren't directed towards some end. So there's no telos.
Couldn't we say that mathematics is just like a type of language that we use to describe the universe around us?
Well, if we said that, it wouldn't do the job of grounding that we need it to do, because if it's just a functional, pragmatic thing, then we don't have any basis to know that it actually applies to the world or that it's an actually real thing.
And can you go a little bit more deeper in the one and the many?
So I mean, it's a historic problem going back to Plato and even earlier about how we relate particular instances to general classes of things or to sets of things, and to use modern terminology. So one dog is an instance of a class of things that we call dogs. And so the problem of the one and the many is just how do we relate the one universal to the many particular instances of that thing. And so that puts us in the domain of metaphysics. And if we are going to be in the domain of metaphysics, we're going to have to be able to give an account for and to justify doing of metaphysics. And pretty much 99% of atheism is predicated on rejecting all metaphysics. So we're in a bind if we're going to go with that atheistic kind of worldview.
That went over my head, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, I mean, you could look up some examples of the problem, the one and the many, and then, maybe look at like Plato and Aristotle, because they both, or even the pre-Socratics, they deal with the one and the many. In fact, it's a big part of their philosophical discussion.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Thanks very much.
Yeah, good questions. Appreciate that, John. Charlie wants to come back. What's up?
Hey, with the problem with the one and the many, what's to say that, like, for instance, the class of dog or the category of dog is not just like conventional or social, and like we like humans like see similarities between canines and then like classify it that way? What's the problem with that?
Well, that would just be the nominalist position. And if nominalism is true, then we no longer have the ability to predicate about any class of things in the world. They're unjustified predications.
They're just arbitrary.
Yeah, I mean they don't have any. They don't have any basis. So basically, we would be at David Hume's arguments.
Okay. All right. Cool. Just had a question there. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Now we got some quality questions. How do we get? We had all this madness, and then we get some. Right when I'm about to quit, we get the quality coming in. High quality. November rain.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's everyone doing? So my question is, why is the Trinity, why is it such a talked about subject, especially if we cannot understand what the Trinity fully is?
Well, I think that if we wanted to make understanding fully the basis for believing in something, then we wouldn't believe in anything, because nothing can be fully understood in some exhaustive, omniscient sense. But that God is a Trinity we can know because it's revealed that way. So what's wrong with that?
Wait, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that again?
That we can know that God's a Trinity is different from knowing whether we know it exhaustively or in some definitional sense. So, I'm sorry if that was too obscure of an explanation. This dude really wants to come back. Lewis,
I just had one question regarding your philosophy course, the $1,000 one. So I'm a complete layman. I really have no idea about anything in philosophy. Like, I have a very basic understanding. If I was to do that course, would it give me a good, comprehensive kind of overview of the history of philosophy, different philosophical ideas, and I'll have an understanding of different definitions of words and stuff? Would it?
So it's I'll tell you what it is. It's 12 lectures, and we took it's about say 28, 30 hours of course material and discussion. I chose about 4 standard texts to use. I have 2 guest lectures in 2 of the installments. So we begin with the pre-Socratics, where we cover all of those guys, and then how they kind of laid the groundwork and the questions that Plato and Aristotle would take up. So that first lecture is about 2 or 3 hours on the pre-Socratics, and it's all slides. We go into a lot of depth. I do define a lot of terminology. We have a course on Plato, the basics and the overall view of Plato, Republic, and dialogues. Then we move to Aristotle. Then we move to Stoics and Roman philosophy, and then we move up into patristic philosophy, church fathers, early Latin and Byzantine theology in the Middle Ages. We spend an episode on Aquinas. We move up into modern Enlightenment thinkers, Descartes, Kant, Hegel, and there's also 3 episodes on, there's an episode on ethics, an installment on metaphysics, and an installment on epistemology. So, for example, for epistemology, I brought Dr. Ananias on, who is a logic professor. For the aesthetics and metaphysics course, I brought my priest on, who's a lecturer in Renaissance art, and we got deep into Renaissance art theory and overall aesthetic theory. So I think it's a really valuable in-depth course. So it is a little bit pricey, but it's pricey because I think it's more valuable than what you would get at, community college or something like that, which is still going to be more than $1,000. So that's what you're looking at. You're looking at 12 courses all the way up until I think Nietzsche and postmodernism is where we ended it. So that's what it is.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So me coming in with no prior knowledge, would it be very difficult to kind of catch up and understand from the beginning, or does it kind of ease you in a sense?
So we had several people that didn't have any prior knowledge of philosophy, and I think the average consensus was that they were able to do it, but it is a little difficult. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and act like it's not going to take some, brain work to get through and learn some of the stuff.
Okay.
But we had several ladies that enjoyed it. They got all the way through it. We had some dudes and some people that had no philosophical background at all. They really understood it. So I mean, if you go to my YouTube channel, the first course or the first 45 minutes of it is up for free. So if you want to get a sample of it, just go to philosophy lecture, and it's like a vaporwave background of me, and you'll see that's like the first hour of the first course, and you can decide from that if it's something that you think would jive with you or not.
Okay, brilliant. Last question. I don't want to take too much time. In terms of reading material, so during the course, do you recommend certain books, or is there any kind of extra reading that you give?
There's 4 books that we have attached to the course.
Mhm.
I think 2 volume, 1 volume, or one, I can't remember, 1 or 2 volumes of Copleston's History of Philosophy, which is a pretty well-known classic used in a lot of grad courses and seminaries. We used W.J. Wood's book on epistemology. We used Haskell's book on metaphysics. I think these are pretty readable, small books. And then I think the Bonjour book on epistemology, which is a pretty standard grad school text on epistemology. So those are all the texts that we use, and they were just, common texts that other professors recommended to me. And one of the texts was one that I used when I was in grad school. So.
Okay. Do you recommend, if I do buy the course, to buy those books also?
If you really, it's up to you, because, it's not a college course in the sense of like you're writing papers and I'm grading it. So
Yeah.
if you were writing papers and I was grading your papers, you would have to have the texts. You'd have to pass the tests. So there's no tests. So it's really whether it's up to you, like how deep you want to go. I would say it would be good to get the books and do the reading, because we have kind of readings that go along with it. And the Copleston book's really good on the pre-Socratics. So the Bonjour book is pretty tough if you're new, because it's a grad book. So that one, it's going to be pretty tough for epistemology. But if you do the W.J. Wood book, it's actually a lot easier for introduction to epistemology, and then you could move on to the Bonjour book.
Okay, brilliant. I'll power myself through it. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, if people are interested in that course, it is over at you go to my website and you go to, where is it linked at? If you go to any of my YouTube videos, in the description, the philosophy course is linked there, and you get it over at Richard Grove's Autonomy Agora Marketplace. Fanatic Palamite will take you last because I'm getting kind of worn out. What's up, man? You gotta unmute. We heard you for a second. No, you dropped off. So, thank you to Nick and to Light for being there and helping me out. You guys are troopers. Appreciate that. Mendoza's coming back. What's up, dude?
What's up, Jay?
Hey.
How can we get you on here more often? Because there's so many cringe talk atheists that I just love to see you destroy, brother.
It's hard, man. I gotta be honest. Like I start wanting to lose my patience over here. Like it's.
I don't blame you. I'm like slow boy level, and I lose my patience with these retards. So I can't even imagine you. There's a couple atheists that know you that I've debated on here that want to debate you. I just love to see that happen, man. I'd be willing to donate or something just to see that happen. Have you ever heard of a guy named J. Mike?
Bruh.
He just popped in here.
Did he?
He was in the live twice, bro.
Yeah, twice.
Oh, did he? What did you guys get into it?
He was slow.
It didn't go very far because he didn't know what a metalogical argument was. So.
Oh man, hopefully that's recorded somewhere because that guy is such a fucking tool.
Recorded on here. So, what's up, Rano? Thank you.
Anyway, I just
it.
wanted to say that, Jay. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Mendoza. Appreciate it.
I'm hopping off. God bless you.
Okay. Well, where'd that dude go? Come back, Rano. You dropped off. All right. I think we'll call it a night. I'm about done for. Thank you guys. A lot of fun. It's feral as always over here. So for those that are curious, I upload this to I might put it on my main channel. I don't know. It's kind of wacky. But usually I upload these to the backup YouTube channel. No evidence of God. The evidence is the Transcendental Argument. So Maiko Stiku, if you want to come on. He didn't have enough followers to come on. Anyway, everybody have a good night.